starting things off with the Seattle Seahawks. We are going to go deep here, gentlemen. We're going to go offense, defense, schedule, record predictions, what to watch for, odds, and our preseason top 32. Let's start off with the offense. AJ, what is the most underrated part of this offense that actually might surprise people this season in a good way?
You know, the funny thing about it, now I don't even know if he just does it on purpose or if he really just can't tell us apart for some reason. The funny thing is, my thought process for this offense and what's underrated is really been the bread and butter for what they want to do, and that's the run game. I actually think that this run game is going to be a little better than some people are expecting. There was a conversation about Chris Carson and if he was going to come back. And for some of us, we kind of knew the writing was on the wall for Chris Carson. But I think there was still that slither of positivity that he might be back and be able to hit this, help this run game. But now that the retirement came, I think people thought that it was really going to fall off. You just have Rashad Penny. But we talked about him a lot and how he came on strong at the end of last season. Talking 4 out of his last 5 weeks, he rushed for over 130 yards, ripped off 8 different runs for more than 25 yards, while averaging 7 yards a carry during that point in time. So they're really hoping that he can take that end to last season and carry it over this year. But the other big thing to really think about when it comes to Rashad Penny is he too has had some injury issues. Since 2020, he's only played 20 of a possible 33 games. So if he's the type of guy that ends up missing time this season, they're very excited for their guy who they would call the number 1 backup in Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. This guy was explosive last year. A lot of people would say that he was the best running back out of the draft, which sure you can argue it was Breece Hall, but either way, the other conversation comes down to Kenneth Walker as well. And this is the guy that Pete Carroll kind of likes his style of running back. Big with yards after contact, was 3rd in the nation last year on that. So I think he's going to be able to step up and step in. And with these two guys running the rock, I think you're going to see a better run game than you did last year that was near the bottom of the league.
Whoa. AJ, you had such a great take. And I was with it. And until you just ruined it at the end. They weren't at the bottom of the league last year. They were in the top 10 in rush yards per game last year. You can win. The Seattle Seahawks were in top 10 in rush yards per game last year. Yes, they were 122 rushing yards per game. Listen, I was on board with everything you said. I do think this is an underrated part of their team. I do think it's going to improve even more this year, but I have to discredit you for what you said about last year because they were a decent run team last year. They just didn't run the ball as much as we would have liked because Russell Wilson was there. But the fact is, they still were a top 10 rush team last year, and that was with a Chris Carson banged up. Rashad, what? Go on. No, that's all I had to say. I agree with your take 100%, except take 1% away for saying that they were a poor rush team last year when they ran for top 10 in the league last year, 122 yards a game.
Everything I saw talked about how they could not get the run game going. They could not stay consistent because they were rotating between a DJ Dallas, a Travis Homer, an Alex Collins, and Rashad Penny was injured for all season until the last.
I don't know where you're getting research from, but they averaged 5 yards a carry, which was 3rd in the NFL last year. So they had 5 yards a carry, 3rd in the NFL. They were top 10 in rush yards per game. I don't know where you're getting these numbers from.
Well, I just saw a graphic 2 days ago where the Cleveland Browns were at the top at 5 rush yards a game, tied with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yes, 5.1. Cleveland number 1, Colts number 2, Seattle number 3 at 5 yards a carry. They only ran the ball 413 times last year.
So
That's been the problem for the Seahawks is they put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands too much. They didn't lean on the run game, so they didn't have as many total yards as some teams because they didn't rush the ball as much. But yards per game and average per rush yard, they were tops in the league.
They were 9th in rushing yards per game last season. That is the definitive number right there. They were 9th in the NFL in rushing yards per game.
Fantastic.
I'm going to do this. Just because. So I made that little mistake of putting Aaron in there instead of you. We give you 2 hours to prep, and you still can't get the damn facts right. together.
I went to like 3 or 4 different sites. I'm sorry. I don't know why my sites talk about how they weren't consistent and couldn't get it up in the league and was at the bottom near the league. You know, I double checked. It wasn't like I took one damn excerpt. It was like, I like that one. Nah, I was going around.
You just made Joe from Tacoma, Washington yell at us in the comments. Okay.
He called him Joe from Tacoma, Washington.
You just made Joe mad at us, okay? He is ripping you in the comments right now for not knowing your shit.
I think the fact is, like, I agree. I think the Seattle goes back to their old school of when Russell was young approach, which is we want to lean heavily on the run game. You sign Rashad Penny, you bring in a Kenneth Walker, who's been, from all indications, been really, really impressive in camp. I think they run the ball heavily, and they look for Geno Smith or Drew Lock to not make mistakes on the offensive side of the football.
I agree. I love Ken Walker this year. I told you guys, at least for fantasy this year, he's going to be the starting running back eventually in Seattle this year, and he's going to be an RB2 towards the end of the season. Maybe not season long, but from like week 11 to week 18, you're going to see Ken Walker be an RB2, and at least in fantasy football. And I love you guys' takes saying that that's going to be a big part of Seattle's team moving forward. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Aaron, what part of this defense needs to step up the most? Obviously, losing a big piece in Bobby Wagner this offseason is huge. But what part of that defense, whether it be the defensive linemen, the linebackers, the corners, whatever, what part needs to step up the most?
What other parts are on the defense, Vinny?
Hey, I'm just trying to elaborate on the question.
I told you I was on one today. I told you I had energy. I don't need your assistance on remembering what parts of the defense that are at the levels that we have in the NFL. I don't need you to help. But anyways, to your point.
There is so much hostility on this show right now. The Seattle Seahawks are breaking us, and we're only one team in.
No, it's because I told you I wasn't messing around. I told you I wasn't messing around today. So listen, to me, it straight goes to the defensive line. This is a team that struggled in the past to get to the quarterback. They haven't been up there in sacks, and you lose guys like Jadeveon Clowney a year or 2 years ago. They just haven't been able to put pressure. And now you look at guys like Shelby Harris and Al Woods and Poona Ford, guys who have never put pressure on the quarterback, and you're going to ask the guys on the back end, the Jamal Adams and the safety, the Sidney Jones at corner, to cover guys for a long period of time. I don't know if they can do that. I think the back end of that defense is talented, but I don't know if they can hold up long enough for a defensive line that struggled to get to the quarterback with guys that aren't really that good at getting to the quarterback and being able to hold up that long for this defense. And that's what we're looking for. If they can get to the quarterback or generate pressure with Uchenna Nwosu from the Chargers and linebacker blitzes or whatever they got to do to generate that pressure, I think it's important because the defensive line getting to the quarterback is going to be the number one reason whether Seattle's defense is successful or it fails.
And I mean, they gotta play Trey Lance twice a year. They gotta play Kyler Murray twice a year.
Good luck getting to those guys.
Yeah, this is what the NFC West is turning into. I mean, and Matt Stafford, it can move too. I mean, I'm not going to consider him a slouch either. But they brought over Nwosu from Los Angeles. He was actually one of their best pass rushers aside from Joey Bosa. He was actually in his time with the Chargers. He actually had more sacks than guys like Melvin Ingram there. He was a producer when it came to sacks for the Chargers. So that's going to be a big piece for the Seattle Seahawks team moving forward. And I agree that pass rush is going to be huge for this team. I like the direction that they're going, though.
I believe they finished bottom 10 in sacks last year. They just don't generate enough pressure. Really,
and their defense wasn't actually that good last year. You look at their 2021 team defense rankings, they did not finish really good at just about anything other than opponents' points per game. I mean, they finished 9th there, but other than that, it was not a good season for the Seattle Seahawks defense, and they're going to have to make some changes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's directly linked to the pass rush. They were second worst in pass yards given up per game. But again, a lot of that is, hey, I'm covering my guy, but I can't cover him forever. I need some help. Get to the quarterback, make things easier on the back end. And again, they have some good, young, talented players on the back end, including 2 really good safeties. But if that front line or those linebackers can't find a way to create pressure, they're going to have the same issue this year. What support for the Sac City podcast is brought to you now by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. That's right, their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. That's right, I said family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million worldwide who trust Manscaped with the exclusive offer we are giving to you. 20% off free worldwide shipping with the code SACCITY at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, I think, Vinny, AJ, that's 12 million balls. It's a game changer. Inside the pack, you get the Lawnmower 4.0, trimmer, weed whacker, and nose hair trimmer, crop, ball preserver deodorant, reviver toner, and a pair of boxer briefs to boot. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0 is the trimmer of the future, grooming and, dare I say, greatest ball trimmer ever. That's right, it's 4th generation, has 4000K LED spotlight on it, and very, very precise shade. Because the trimmer is waterproof, you can say goodbye to the mess on your bathroom floor. It's time to take care of yourself. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SACCITY at manscaped.com. That is 20% off and free shipping. Free shipping, guys. And you all know, $10 for shipping. You get free shipping. 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com. And be sure to type in the code SACCITY.
Let's move on to their schedule here. And if you missed our schedule breakdown shows, it's still on our YouTube. You can go check that out at Sac City Pod. We have the Seahawks special sectioned off for you as an easy viewing pleasure. But this is their schedule right here. And AJ, what part of this schedule will define the Seahawks season?
Oof, what a question. Honestly, it's what they do in their own division. Can you do the normal split with some of these teams? And as we just mentioned, that's very hard to do. I don't see a lot of consistency coming from this team. It's not like I don't see a 3-game win streak or anything like that for them. So if they can show up and they can play their division well, give them something to think about, like you're not just sleeping on the Seahawks in your division. I think watching guys like how are you gonna play the Cardinals twice a week? How are you gonna adjust to what you saw the last time you played a team? How are you gonna set up your offense to at least match some of the powers that are in the NFC West? So that's kind of where the definition for what the Seahawks will do this season. Because again, we all know that we don't think there's going to be much success this year. But if you can do enough and you can adjust enough that these young guys can at least learn the steps of the NFL, so that next year when they're putting some more studs on this offense and this defense, you're in a good position to at least compete for another 3 or 4 wins and continue that trajectory upward going forward.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I mean, that's going to be huge to how they handle those division games. I also think a big part of the Seahawks schedule here, and I just wanted to note this as well, is how they play against those the average to the below average teams. I mean, you see the games like the Falcons, the Lions, the Giants, teams like that, the teams that are all around that same area as the Seahawks. How they play against those teams really could help define this season, whether it would really lay out where this rebuild actually is. Because I mean, you look at like the Giants, they've got hopefully potentially their franchise quarterback in Daniel Jones. Detroit's moving in the right direction with Dan Campbell. I mean, these teams are all a little bit further ahead in the rebuild process than Seattle is, at least on paper. So it's going to be a really telling sign when they get matched up against those teams. But let's do it, gentlemen. Let's get into these record predictions here for the Seattle Seahawks. Aaron, start with you. What is your record prediction for the Seahawks?
Yeah, I've been saying it that this team's going to struggle. I like everything they did in the offseason. We talk about the draft that they had, the rookies they brought in, Abraham Lucas, Charles Cross, fixed the offensive line, Kenneth Walker added their running back depth, and then we talked about the guys on defense, the Boye Mafes, Kobe Bryant's, the guys in the secondary that they brought in, Tariq Woolen in the draft, free agents, Uchenna Owosu. I think this team is trending in the right direction. I still think this team is a quarterback away. So I still think this team gets a quarterback or good quarterback play. They can compete and they'll have a chance. I just don't know if that quarterback is on the roster currently. So I think that's why they struggle this year. They don't have favorable matchups game after game after game where they get 3 or 4 in a row with easy teams or mediocre teams that they might be able to put some wins together. So 4-13. I got 4 wins for me. 4-13. I told you they'll beat Atlanta because we know Atlanta is Atlanta and it's AJ's team. The Giants, the Niners, and then they'll beat the Rams one time because it'll be a division game. Probably that week 17 game or week 18 game when the Rams have nothing to play for because they've already locked up the division. Okay.
All right. You're staying on par with what you had in our NFC West schedule breakdown. So 4-13 is what you had. AJ, what about yours? What's your record
He
prediction?
said a lot. He said a lot there, and I agree with like 95% of it. I also have them at except for the Falcons. And honestly, I thought about that I thought about that a lot actually, where my 4 wins were for the Seahawks. I actually have them beating San Francisco early in the season. I think Trey Lance is still going to be figuring some things out, and they'll have a chance to catch them there. I don't think they'll beat them later in the season. The other thing I have is you brought up the Giants and that team there. I think, honestly, I have them beating the Giants, but I also, that's one of the ones that I'm not so sure on because I think they're catching them at a bad time. With Brian Dable coming in there 7-8 weeks to go and learn the system and his effect on that team, I think that the New York Giants will be in a better situation. I think that defense will be clicking on a lot of cylinders, if not all by then, to help that offense where it's lacking. So while I have them beating the Giants as of now, that might be my toss-up win that I have for the Seattle Seahawks as of now. But I also kept with 4-13, and I'm pretty confident in that.
Alrighty, so that's slightly different than your 5-12 prediction for the NFC West. It is completely okay because that's as the offseason progresses, really there's toss-ups in these games. I had 3-14 for this team. I am perfectly fine with jumping to 4-13. I have no problem with 4-13 with this team. Lots of these games with this team, it's hard to say because the talent is there. It's just like you said, Aaron. The quarterback is just the one thing that they're missing. Lock him in for 4-13. Aaron, what's the one thing you're watching for this season with the Seattle Seahawks?
Oh, this is easy. I think this is kind of the low-hanging fruit. It's which quarterback is going to win this battle in camp, and I think we're going to find out early what's going to happen here. I think we're seeing it now. The other day reports Drew Lock outperforms Geno Smith in one of their scrimmages, went like 16 for 24, 200 some yards, a couple of touchdowns, and Geno Smith didn't play very well. So I'm looking for who actually takes the lead, takes command of this under center position. And I think that's going to be telling you what Seattle does going forward, because I do think if it's Geno Smith, I think they're looking desperately for a quarterback next year. But if Drew Lock can come in and show some sort of signs, you might start to get the conversation around, hey, maybe Seattle doesn't have to draft a quarterback in next year's draft, and maybe it's a pass rusher, maybe it's somebody else, and they take a quarterback maybe later. So I'm looking directly at that quarterback position.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at these young cornerbacks in Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant. Obviously, you put a Cincinnati man on the team, I'm probably going to bring him up. But no, I'm really excited actually about Tariq Woolen, and they're raving about him in camp. They're putting him in with the ones and watching him not even try his best, is actually getting the better of some of these receivers on that offensive side of the ball. They talk about how fast he is. They talk about his instincts around the ball, and they talk about his desire to just be great. And I think that's something where you can see him start to make an impact early in the season. And so if they can start getting these young cornerbacks and that secondary back into prominence like it was in the days of the Legion of Boom, and now you can get next season going and you have a defense that actually has stepped up, you're in a good spot moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sticking on the defense as well. I'm jumping in here to put my 2 cents in. I'm really watching what you guys had, what Aaron, you brought up earlier about the defense, that pass rush. Not only did they bring in Iwosu, they also brought in Shelby Harris in that trade that was with Russell Wilson, but they also drafted Boye Mafe, the defensive end out of Minnesota. I really want to see the development of this defensive line and this pass rush, because I think the core group of guys are there for Seattle. At least for the pass rush, the core group of guys with Mafe, with Shelby Harris, with Nwosu, that's it right there. That's your core. And I want to see how that develops this season for the Seattle Seahawks. Now we're going to play a little game. Little game here for you, gentlemen. Little odds, little prop bets for this season. And we are going to be giving our Seattle Seahawks prop bet locks. I'm going to give you guys 3 prop bets. And I need you guys to establish one prop bet that you are going to lock in. It is a guaranteed lock. It's going to hit this season. I got the odds for you. You lock it in. We'll revisit this at the end of the season to see if you're right. This is the Seattle Seahawks prop bets. Under 5.5 wins is plus 120. Over 6.5 touchdowns for DK Metcalf is minus 115. And Ken Walker, offensive rookie of the year, is plus 1,200. You gentlemen have to lock in one of these odds here to take with you through the end of the season. What is it, Aaron?
Oh, it's easy for me. It's the under 5.5 wins for plus 120. Like I'm getting plus money on under 5.5. That means they can get 5 wins and I still win my money. Yeah, plus 120 is a great number for that. I don't love the DK Metcalf number there. That's tough odds there. And then Kenneth Walker, I'm sorry, but running backs just good luck trying to win offensive rookie of the year. It's probably going to go to a quarterback or a receiver, so.
Yeah, especially if he's fighting with Rashad Penny. If he stays healthy, that's going to be a hard feat to beat. So if we're allowed to keep the same one, because I mean, obviously, it's definitely the under 5.5 is a lock for me as well. DK Metcalf, I feel, is a little closer, but I also think he's the only one that they're going to be able to hit really. So I think he's gonna hit that 7 touchdown mark.
Okay, I saw that. I was like, you know what? I saw because that's the odds on like the odds right now for the Seattle Seahawks is 5.5 wins over under 5.5. Like that's where odds makers are saying that's where they're going to end up being. And when I went back to look at our NFC West show, I was like, okay, AJ has them at 5, Aaron has them at 4. Maybe from that time to now, that's slightly changed a little bit. Maybe they bump up to 6 if it's possible. But I don't see it happening. That's definitely going to be the easy lock. I'm not taking any of those other bets, though, like you gentlemen said, with DK Metcalf, with Drew Lock now as his quarterback, or Geno Smith. It's tough. And it's crazy because DK Metcalf, throughout his entire career, has never had below 6.5 touchdowns before. Like he's been dominant, obviously, with Russell Wilson. He's had 7, 10, and 12 last season for touchdowns. So this would be considered his worst year with Seattle Seahawks if he were to get below 6 touchdowns. That's our locks. That's our preview for the Seattle Seahawks, but we have to unveil where they fall in our top 32 teams in the NFL. Aaron, would you like to do the honors of where they fall?
Yeah, near the bottom. That's what we talk about. We said it, 4 wins at the bottom. They are going to be team number 30. Team 30 out of 32. They again some promising signs as we move forward in the offseason, but they're going to struggle because they lack the quarterback play. They would need a great performance in order to from one of their quarterbacks in order to get higher than ranked 30th. And you're on mute, so that's a minus.
I am. I'm dying over here. I'm trying not to Yes.
I understand.
Proceed. That's fair. For the 30th spot for the Seattle Seahawks right there.